This is a Mercator map projection of the globe. It's a popular type of map used for navigation. So we've made a round object like the Earth flattened out so we can see everything on one page. This causes some distortion. Things kind of look like the wrong size, but it helps us to visualize the whole world on one map. We can describe the Earth as being divided into two equal parts. These are called hemispheres. These halves have been described as the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. The line that separates them is the equator. It can also be labeled as the western hemisphere and the eastern hemisphere. The line that separates these two hemispheres is called the prime meridian. So the imaginary line that's drawn on the map dividing northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere is the equator. This line is the equator. The vertical lines that divide Earth into two equal parts and run through the north and the south poles are called meridians. Unlike the equator, there are many meridians. Any line that runs through both poles is a meridian. The line dividing west from east is called the prime meridian. Prime means first or most important. The prime meridian passes through the city of Greenwich, England. Here's a practice question. What term best describes each of the two halves of the Earth? The correct answer is hemisphere. Let's move on. This imaginary line divides the Earth into northern and southern hemisphere. Correct answer is equator. Now, if you lay a grid over the map of the Earth, we get vertical and horizontal lines that have their own names. The lines that run left to right are called lines of latitude. Lat is flat, lat like a ladder. These are lines of latitude. The equator is the line of latitude at the center of the map. The lines that run top to bottom are called lines of longitude. Lines of longitude are meridians. The prime meridian is the line of longitude that divides the west and the east. A way to remember the difference between longitude and latitude is the following rhyme. The flat lines are the lat lines. Now let's examine how to use these lines to find specific locations on the map. The basic unit for measurement on a map is degree. Starting at a point on the equator and following it all the way around gives us a total of 360 degrees. Because it's a circular shape, the Earth is a round shape. This means that each hemisphere, or half of the Earth, has 180 degrees, measured either west from the midpoint or measured east from the midpoint. It looks a bit like a number line. The degree marks on the equator represent the points where lines of longitude intersect. This map shows points of longitude every 15 degrees. To move 45 degrees west, we follow the equator and move 3 points to the left. Now you see on the line 45 degrees west. To move 60 degrees west, we follow the equator again and move 4 points to the right. 60 degrees east. Now we're moving to the right. That's the eastern hemisphere. We use the letter W to mean west and the letter E to represent east. Moving up or down from the equator, we use lines of latitude. We might move 15 degrees south. That number for that line of latitude is on the side. That's 15 degrees south. or 30 degrees north. We use the letter N to mean north and the letter S to mean south. Since the map shows both sides and faces of the Earth at the same time, a map allows us to go 90 degrees north or south. All right, let's see what you can do. Click on the equator at 30 degrees west. So the red line is the equator, and the west is to the left. Here is 30 degrees west. Correct.
Back.
So it says click on the equator at 75 degrees east. So equator again is the red line. East is on the right side of the prime meridian. So we need 75. Here's 60. There's 90. Up 75 in the middle of that. Click on the prime meridian at 45 degrees north. The prime meridian, remember, is 0 degrees longitude. So on the prime meridian, 45 degrees north. North is above the equator. And we can see the number 45 on the side of the map on the prime meridian. Click on the prime meridian at 60 degrees south. So that's going to be in the bottom part of the map, southern hemisphere, 60 degrees south. Now it's time to put the two together. By combining the use of latitude and longitude, we can find any location on the planet. Location points look like this: 35 degrees north, 27 degrees east. For points on the map that fall between grid lines, we must make guesses. For example, 53 degrees is about halfway between 45 and 60 degrees. When we find a location, always start with the line of latitude. Latitude is always given first when you're recording the coordinates on the map. So, for example, 35 degrees north and 27 degrees east, we will need to move 35 degrees up from the equator to find 35 degrees north. Now it's time for longitude. Remaining at 35 north, we'll move to the right 27 degrees. 27 is almost 30, that's why the arrow stops here. And the east is on the right side of the prime meridian. We've found our point. Let's review the steps we can take to find a location and try some on our own. To find the location, first, begin at the point where the prime meridian and the equator intersect. Second, move north up or south down the indicated number of degrees. Third, from that point, while still on the prime meridian, move west to the left or east to the right the correct number of degrees. Click on the map at 35 degrees north and 90 degrees east. So we're going to start where they intersect. 35 north means I'm going to go up a little bit past the 30. And 90 east means I'm going to go to the right until I get to the line labeled 90. We got it. 40 degrees south, 55 degrees west. 40 south. I'm going to start where they intersect. I'm going to go to the bottom this time for south. And west is to the left, 55 degrees west. Got it. 45 degrees north, 120 degrees east. So 45 north, it's up to this way, and east is to the right, 120 east. Oh, I made a mistake. 45 north, 120 east, right there. Got it. Okay, now we're going to try some on your own using Test Wizard.